Hey guys, I wanted to come on here and give you a bit of an episode review on camera. One of the more popular episodes from Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and that is of course the case of the Cola Cult. And this episode came out in what was dubbed as the second season, basically the premiere for the show in syndication, since the first season, the spring sneak peek, was on Disney Channel. From a continuity standpoint, the second season was in syndication, and this was the 14th episode, debuting, according to what it says on the Ranger Wiki, which is the Rescue Ranger Wikipedia, on October 17th, 1989, basically the day of the earthquake that we had here, that interrupted the 89 World Series. But yeah, that's when it initially debuted here in the U.S. on October 17th, 1989. And the story is really interesting because, of course, the story is very Gadget-centric. Basically, long story short, is the episode starts out with them basically trying out a new vehicle that Gadget has put together, basically called it's like a Ranger skate or something. I think it's a Ranger skate, if you will. Let's see. News vehicle, the Ranger Mobile. The Ranger Mobile. That's what it is. The Ranger Mobile. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the Ranger Mobile. It's had several. I think it only had one appearance, I believe. Oh no! It had three appearances. It debuted in the case of the Colt. It appeared and does Pavaloo ring a bell, and is Love, and basically the third and last appearance was in Love is a many splintered thing. But yeah, it made its debut in the case of the Cola Cult, and basically it ended up kind of losing a little bit of control to where it crashed into a cola warehouse. And this is where the Rangers, after basically surviving the accident, which of course Gadget doesn't faze Gadget at first, because she's like, okay, I have nothing to worry about on that, I can take care of it, kind of deal. This is where they encounter the Cola Cult. Basically, they encounter a group of armed ninja mice who are basically like guards, guardians, if you will. We think at first are guardians of the Cola Cult, but which they are, but we find out the truth later on. And this is where we encounter the new characters, Bubbles and Pop Top. And I think there's another character called Myron, I think is his name. I think his name is Myron. Yeah, Myron. We encounter these characters, and they're all, basically followers of the cult of Coca-Cola. Basically what it is. Basically the equivalent of Coca-Cola. And of course, this is where that song, the Coca-Cola song, comes from. Which everybody knows by heart by now. And they just, they meet, like I said, they meet the characters. They meet, like I say, Bubbles and Pop Top, and then when Pop Top and Bubbles lead them to, the ceremony, which they obviously do almost every night or every week or something like that, where they basically kind of like baptize themselves in cola. Basically, they give up their belongings or whatever, precious to them and everything, and sacrifice it to be fizzed or to be cleansed of all material items and stuff, and start anew, kind of like baptism, if you will. And again, like I said, this is where you get this song from for the first time. This is where we meet Myron, who's asking them if they're going to go through the process, and Monterey's like, "Are you out of your mind?" And again, Monterey, even I think it's during this opening scene, quips up by saying, "No wonder they call it Coca-Cola. They crazy," or I think it's this scene. I'm not really sure. Anyway, Anyway, this basically, the way they meet, like I say, the way they meet the Cola Code is kind of like, the trend, somewhat the subplot of the story, because the next thing they try later on, is let's see. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything here. Basically, the next thing they try. The next thing they try is called the Magno Ray, and that's back at headquarters. Basically, what happens is the Magno Ray kind of gets out of control, and it basically attracts everything. I'm reading some of the information off Ranger Riki, but so I can kind of remember, exactly what happens. What process leads to what. And what happens is the Magno Ray basically attracts everything metallic in headquarters, and it's basically after that, where Chip kind of scolds Gadget a little bit after that, saying, "Hey, your crazy inventions could hurt somebody." Then, that's when they get a knock on the door, or it's not actually. Well, actually, what happens is it's when Gadget finishes putting together the Magno Ray, and Dale's kind of helping her by holding up the magnet, that they get a knock on the door, and it's Myron, the mouse they met at the Cola Cult, and he wants to talk to them because obviously he's found something out about the Cola Cult that, is bothering him. Basically, kind of, in other words, doubting, whether or not what he's following is real or not, if you will. And it's during talking to him that Gadget turns on the Magno Ray, and it just starts attracting everything, in the headquarters. And after it kind of disables, that's when Chip kind of, like I said, scolds her a little bit by saying, "Your crazy inventions can hurt somebody." And when they try to find out what Myron read, all they see is like a bottle cap stuck in their headquarters, not headquarters, but stuck in their team logos, on their team logo, which is hung above the headquarters door. So that was the second thing. So basically what they're going here from a storyline perspective with Gadget is the 3 strikes kind of deal. It's like, okay, the first 2 times, all right, that was like no big deal, she could fix that. And we see that later on in the episodes in which the Ranger Mobile appears again, that she kind of pretty much fixed that situation. But it isn't until they go back to the warehouse to kind of investigate what Myron was trying to tell them, or at least explain to them, where we see them trying out a new invention called the Gyromobile. And basically, again, it has a situation that happens, I think. Basically, basically they tried the Gyromobile, which, does work, but according to Ranger Wiki, fails only when it tries to cling on a surface in the storage which doesn't support suction cups. In other words, the Gyromobile, basically, it goes boop, 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 because it's got the suction cups connected to it in a rotating way. So it's going doot, 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 all the way down. But when it gets to a certain area of the storage where it tries to cling, it can't cling, so it crashes down. And then Dale says something when Gadget says, "I can fix that." And Dale's like, "No thanks, I'll walk." So what happens, though, unbeknownst to them, as they're investigating or trying to investigate what's going on, somebody mysteriously starts to unscrew certain parts of the Gyromobile, and just by looking at the hand, you kind of see who that is. And after, they get another encounter with the ninjas, they try to escape, and it looks like the Gyromobile is working, and just when they get stuck to a certain area, thinking they're protected and everything, or as they're climbing up, I should say, they hear something, or Dale hears something, and he's like, "What was that?" And Gadget tries to play it off like, "Oh, it was nothing." And then Chip notices another thing happening, or coming loose, and he says, "Then what was that?" And then Gadget's like, "Oh, that's something, or that's a problem." Basically Gadget tells Dale, "Oh, it's no problem, nothing at all, no problem." And And then like I said, when Chip notices something, go wrong, she says that's a problem. And what happens is they get to the middle of the roof of the warehouse, and then that's when all of a sudden the whole thing just collapses and everything. And this is when Gadget starts to doubt herself and everything, wondering if she's losing her touch and losing the grip. Monterey has to remind Zippo, well, what are you afraid of? You can fly. And then that's when Zippo's like, oh yeah. So he flies off and sees that, okay, I can fly, I'm free, what can I do? He grabs a sheet, pulls it as quickly as he can, as everybody's, as the suction cup lets loose and they're falling, through the sky down to the ground. He pulls it as fast as he can over to the top of an unbottled, empty, an uncapped, I should say, an uncapped bottle. And as he does that, he gets flinged forward, right into the wall, but it's cushioned a bit by the sheet. But it does save everybody. But unfortunately, Zipper kind of gets like the wind knocked out of him. Basically, he gets knocked into a concussionist, if you will. And Gadget, of course, feels bad about that, thinking, "Oh my God, I just nearly killed somebody, nearly killed a friend of mine." And this results in her, as everybody else is trying to, nurse him back, Zipper back to health. This is when Gadget starts putting her tools away and says she's done, and everything. And then, it's the next morning. Everybody is up. Gets up and everything, all ready for the day. Well, not ready for the day. They're still in the pajamas and everything. But Gadget, she's completely dressed, and it's and the reason she's completely dressed is we find out that during the night she's just. She is so distraught that she basically considers quitting, which she does. And what's crazy is she's leaving. She says, I guess this is goodbye. And all of them are like, okay, goodbye, whatever. And then all of a sudden, and it kind of surprises her, thinking, well, I guess they don't care. But then that's when it dawns on them, like, well, wait a minute, what did she just say? And they're like asking her, what are you talking about? What's going on? And, Gadget basically explains that, she just can't contribute anymore. It's like, like Chip has his leadership, Monterey has his strength, Zipper has his speed, Dale has a good sense of humor, but she can't live up to who she is because of what's going on. Now, honestly, I thought when she was, walking like this with the thing and she's talking about how everybody can contribute something, besides her, I almost thought, honestly, this is just my opinion, I thought almost honestly she was going to break into song. I really did. And it probably would have been appropriate, maybe. But who knows how that would have went. But anyway, she basically ends up quitting. And it's around this time that when they're trying to convince her, you can't quit, and this is why. And then all of a sudden, here comes Myron out of nowhere. He's just been obviously hiding out in Ranger headquarters. And he's like, the cola cult and everything. And he just falls and passes out. And, everybody's coming to his aid. And it's like, Gadget's like, you go, you're needed, I'm not. And Chip's like, ugh, he's trying to convince him, but he's like, ugh, okay, her mind's made up. And then that's when she leaves by saying goodbye, Rescue Rangers. And basically what happens is later on we see her, she's in the street, she's crying and everything. And you would think from a continuity standpoint, she would just, go back to where she was, go back to her dad's, back to her old home and be there. But that's when she encounters the Cola Cult. They see her. They remember who she is. And, she explains that she was once the Ranger, but not anymore. Because she just doesn't know where she belongs anymore. And Pop Top takes that as an opportunity to say, well, maybe it's because you don't know where you belong. And come with us, we'll help you. So, anyway, long story short, because I don't want this to get too long, and it probably has already. She tries to be initiated. She tries to allow herself to be initiated into the Cola Cult to see where she belongs, and basically has her stuff sacrificed, if you will, vaporized. And at the same time, we see the Rangers along with Myron sneaking into the Ranger, the Rangers, not Ranger, but the Colt itself, to see what's going on, to find out what's really going on with Pop Top, to see whether or not he's really, you know, everything he says he is, or if he's something more. And it's during all this where they have to hide, and they end up hiding inside one of the cans that's about to be fizzed. Like, what they do is they use these empty cans of Coca-Cola to put a lot of the items people sacrifice or, you know, give up to be cleansed and be fizzed. They basically put these items in there so that basically they will be, you know, sacrificed, you know, for them to be cleansed of them, basically to start a new life. Well, anyway, what happens is the Rangers and Myron, you know, they don't want to be discovered, you know, trying to sneak around, because they're sneaking around trying to find out the truth. So they end up hiding it into an empty can, but somebody shuts the door behind them, and again, it's the same hand we see shutting, that we see it's the same hand that unscrewed or loosened the screws on the gyromobile. And basically, they're getting fizzed along with the rest of the cans and everything. And Monterey's like, guys, it's just soda. How much can you drink? And he starts drinking it as it's pouring out, or pouring into the cans and everything, or filling up the cans. But then they have to hold the breath and everything before they get spilled out. And they get spilled out into an area where they see all the stuff that was sacrificed by the mice that, you know, chose to be cleansed, to be fizzed. And Myron notices, and they notice this because Myron notices something that he gave up, you know, and he says, I saw it disappear with my own eyes. And Chip's like, this is where it all ended up at, you know, and everything that, you know, this, well, Chip basically assumes that this is where it all truly ended up, because Pop Top is not sacrificing them, or they're not being sacrificed, or, you know, basically fizzed into oblivion, but they're basically being stolen by Pop Top. Well, that's what he thinks. And it's after, you know, they attempt to fizz Gadget to try to get her cleansed. You know, it's, you know, she just walks out of the fountain, you know, when it's spraying on her, the orange soda, and she's just like, you know, I'm sorry, it's just not working. Pop Top's like, Gadget, you got to give it time. And she's so distraught. She's like, well, my thing is it doesn't matter. My fizz is fizzled. And then she's like, I guess I'm just not, you know, this is not going anywhere or anything like that. But then all of a sudden, as she's, you know, this, you know, downtrodden, even, like I said, you know, discarding the fizz, the cleanse, if you will, and what Pop Top is trying to tell her. And she's, like I said, she's saying that her fizz is fizzled and that this is just not going anywhere. All of a sudden, she hears this voice behind her, and it's Bubbles' voice. And he says, you know, they're not, but you are. And we go back to where the stuff is hidden, or where all the stuff that was fizzed, sacrificed for other mice to be cleansed and, you know, released and freed of the material life. And we go back there and everything, and we see the Rangers, they're still looking at all the stuff along with Myron, and trying to basically still assume that this is all a scheme. This is all, you know, a con by being portrayed by Pop Top, right? And that's when all of a sudden they hear, you know, Bubbles' voice, and they see Gadget being tossed in with them. And then Gadget, you know, she's got this angry look, but then she looks around, sees her toolbox, and she's like, you know, what's going on here, you know, and everything. She's asking what's going on, and Chip tries to basically say that Pop Top is the one behind it, but then that's when we see Pop Top being dragged in by these ninja mice. Actually, these are different ninja mice than the ones we see. Oh, some of them are the same, some of them are different, but we see Pop Top being dragged in, and we find out basically that Bubbles is actually a criminal, and that he's been masquerading as a follower of this cola cult of Pop Top's, basically even, you know, throwing it in his face that, you know, Pop Top believed all that fizz nonsense. And then even Pop Top, he's upset because, you know, and Pop Top, he's upset because, like, you tricked me and everybody else that believed in this. You know, and Bubbles is like, you're damn right I did. Well, he didn't say damn because it's a Disney cartoon, but anyway, he's like, you're damn right I did. And, you know, and he says, now I'm going to take over. I was just trying to think about what I was going to say there. I do apologize. It seemed like I paused there for a moment. But then he says, now I'm going to take over as the new leader. Basically, take over. Basically, his plan is, take over and continue his underground criminal, thievery, unbeknownst to everybody else. And what happens as a result is they corner the Rangers because they try to remind him, hey, you're messing with the Rescue Rangers, in case you forgot. But then all of a sudden you see all these ninja mice show up, and Monterey's like, I guess he didn't. Or it's like, I guess he didn't. And then, they notice Gadget's running off, and Bubbles is so confident that, victory is his, that he's like, don't worry about her, she won't be back. But unbeknownst to him, even though he's got the other Rangers and he's about to fizz them permanently, in other words, drown them, because he tells them, because instead of putting them in a can, he's put them individually in bottles, and he says, by the way, the trap door's staying trapped and everything. In other words, it's not going to open, and he's going to drown them, if you will, when he makes, the fizz happen. And he makes up this excuse of, oh, Pop Top couldn't be here tonight, but don't worry, he won't miss the fizzing. This, of course, confuses the mice that are following, but as soon as the song comes on, it's like, okay, our worries, we can figure out about them now, and we could just allow ourselves to be fizzed and baptized, cleansed, whatever you want to call it. But again, unbeknownst to Bubbles, he thinks he's confident enough that he won. Unbeknownst to him, all he did was piss Gadget off. He pissed her off to where she basically rebuilds the Gyromobile from what it was to a freaking armored assault vehicle. And as the previews once said, and this is the one thing about the Disney Afternoon back when it first started, one of the things they would do after the block was done, they would show, when the credits would roll, they would, for each show as well as for the block itself, they would show all these little ads for the upcoming episodes the next day. And I remember they were advertising Case of the Cola Cult, and I remember the announcer saying, Gadget, basically the announcer promoting that Gadget basically in this upcoming episode turns into Ramboette. Yeah, he basically said that. He says Gadget turns into Ramboette. Because essentially she becomes a female Rambo here. She becomes a female ass kicker in this episode because she's so pissed off. And she is basically coming in there and everything, and she's shooting away with the plungers. This new armored version of the Gyromobile, this armored assault vehicle she's turned it into, is working almost to perfection. And the ninjas are trying to, go after her and everything because Bubbles hears something and he's alerting them to, to go after them and to go after whatever it is. I guess he's realizing, it is her that's, showing up or show back up. And they're trying to go after her and everything. They're throwing everything at the armor. And Gadget's like, oh, so you want to play rough, huh? It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, you want to talk about the quintessential Gadget moment in the series. This was it. The fact that she basically, comes out, she's like, oh, you want to play rough, right? And then she pops out of the tank and says, all right, who wants to try out this first? And she basically then uses everything to her disposal. Like, okay, remember the Magno Ray? She miniaturizes it, puts it on her back, turns it on, and basically, counter-propels the bottle caps back at the ninjas, shoots a plunger with the panties or something like that connected to them to capture them and everything. And then she's like, works pretty well, wouldn't you say? And then after that, she uses the Gyromobile. She comes back in it. The Gyromobile crashes into the Cola Cult thing, and it's during this where everybody's wondering what is going on. All the mice are like, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's that sound? What's going on? And Bubbles is trying to save face by saying, keep singing, and he's singing the song and all that. And Monterey's like, man, if I had to keep. Monterey's like, I'd rather be fizzed and, hear more of that song and everything. And it's around this time that, Chip, he notices Gadget, she doesn't show, I should say, she doesn't show up in the Gyromobile just yet. Or in the Gyromobile, she actually shows up on her own. She's climbing down the wall, and then Bubbles notices her, and he basically says, basically Bubbles notices her and everything, and he's telling the mice, get her, she's not one of us. And then Gadget's like, wait, Bubbles is not one of you, he's a crook and everything, and then she uses the gyromobile to crash through the wall and push the pot which contains the soda that they would use to fizz the items, to show all the mice the truth, to show them that he's a crook and that he's been using this whole thing to steal your belongings. That instead of them going, and being fizzed correctly the way you believed, he's actually been stealing them. And what happens is, then she has her confrontation with Bubbles and everything. And hold on for a sec. Yeah, sorry about that. But like I was saying, basically, she has a confrontation with Bubbles, who basically, sees. Well, what happens is, he sees her coming down and everything, just like Chip does, and he grabs 2 bottle cups, saying, "I should have took care of you myself," or something like that. Oh no, he doesn't really say that at first. What he does is that, he like I said, he orders the mice to go after her, and saying she's not one of them, and then then Gadget counters by saying, no, he's not one of you. And then she shows them why, by using the gyromobile to burst through the wall and then push the pot with the soda in there to reveal the truth. Then that's when basically what is it? That's when he tries to go after Gadget. He tries to throw 2 bottle caps up at her and everything, and then she uses the magnet to reflect them back, hack and everything, and then she shoots her her plunger arrow, harpoon if you will, at him, or at least at the TV screen, zips down and everything, and then he basically tells her she's just face to face with him. Well, she's actually on the screen. She's actually standing on the television screen with the using suction cups as feet and all that, or as basically to balance herself. And he just looks at her like, I knew you'd be trouble and everything. And he basically uses a can opener to basically bash her, or basically discharge her of her harpoon, and he gets confident, saying, oh, what happened, did I break your little toy? And then all of a sudden she uses the magnet again to basically get the can opener out of his hand, and basically uses it to ricochet the can opener almost right next to him, like that close, like he scares him, like, holy shit, she could have just sliced me in half and everything. And then what happens, he's trying to get it loose and everything. He does, but he ends up being blasted or hit with a bunch of soda fizz. And then Gadget takes advantage. She jumps down, opens up another can of soda to continue him being hit by him. And then she opens up another, and then I think a third one. And you kind of see the effects of her doing all that and everything, because you see her hair kind of getting a little damp. And basically he ends up falling into the pot, and they have to basically fish him out, because it looks like he's going to drown because he can't swim. Oh, one thing I was trying to say before the phone rang there is, when she shows up, he basically grabs the 2 bottle caps, tries to toss them at her, saying, I should have taken care of you myself and everything. And that's when she reflects the bottle caps at him, before she zips down to basically suction her feet to the TV to come face to face with him almost, and that's when he pulls out the can opener, knocks her harpoon away, and then that's when she uses the magnet to pull the can opener out of his hands and ricochet it back almost right, like right there and everything. And then when like I said, that's when he tries to pull it out, and he ends up being hit by a lot of soda fizz. And then Gadget goes from one can, opens it, hits him with another fizz, and then another, and then like I say, you kind of see the effects of that, with her hair being damped and everything. And basically the message at the end is, you know, that you don't need to be a part of some kind of cult or a club or anything like that to, be friends and to get along with each other. You know, as long as you know where you belong, that's all that matters. And that's basically the message of the episode. So overall, the episode I thought was good. It's ranked as one of the best ones out there. I think I have it as one of my top 10 episodes, I believe. In my DVD, on the top 10 DVD I did. I think it's one of them. If not, I should have added it, but I think it is one of them. And overall, to me, honestly, besides, I would say Dirty Rotten Diapers and Gadget Goes Hawaiian and all that, I think it's one of the best Gadget-centric episodes there is. It really is. I mean, there are a few moments in there that I think they could have, really expanded on a bit. Like you could have still had her encounter the Cola Cult, but you could have played off her going back, from a continuity standpoint, back to where she once lived before being with the Rangers. And you could have still had to encounter them there where, like, she's outside and, I guess trying to find her confidence or just sulking, and all of a sudden you see them coming through the bushes and all that, or through the grass leaves, and that's when they encounter her. You could have done it that way. I think the other missed opportunity is her doing a song, because again, it looked like that's what they were leading to in that one moment when she temporarily quit the team. So, there were some missed opportunities, but none to really take away from the enjoyment of this episode. So if you guys haven't seen it, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you have, but if you haven't seen it, I suggest checking it out. It is on Disney Plus as we speak. It's a great episode, and that's all I can say on it with this episode review. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Comment below if you like. Hopefully you've commented during the live chat while this has been going on. Like the video. Check out my Teespring store. Also check me out at BW Roses on Vimeo. Check me out at BW Roses Discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. As well as check me out at Patreon at BW Roses. And check me out at Venmo if you want to help donate that way as well. So until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later.